Good morning. So following on from yesterday's video, I thought I would just talk a bit more about each of the things we looked at, and give my kind of top two or top three of what we have here. So coming in number one, definitely this Earthshippy kind of conservatory solar greenhouse, call it what you want, thing. It's made from shower walls, so it's 8mm toughened shower glass. Plumbing company got them for a job, didn't want them, and so we're getting rid. So their loss was our gain. It's pretty simple. It's based on the Earthship design, so passive solar. It's perfectly south-facing. Its main job is to heat the room behind it, which it does brilliantly. So we would rarely have to heat this room. There is a wood burner in here, but really we've not used it. This was the room that we used to have the rocket mass heater in, and really the conservatory rendered that obsolete. So it's great. So it keeps the room warm. It's a nice space to sit in and be in, and we grow food in it. It has the kind of Earthship irrigation thing, so we get water in one end. We can put grey water in here as well. It flows down through these beds, which are lined, and on the way the water gets cleaned, and by the end it's clean enough to pump out, flush the toilet with, and along the way it irrigates the plants. Although we've got drip irrigation in here too, because the surface does get pretty dry. Until stuff's established, it needs a bit of extra water. It was relatively cheap to build because the glass was basically free. Probably the floor is the hardest part. And this is definitely my favourite part of the house. If you have a south-facing space on your house, I seriously recommend that. Even if you get a big greenhouse and take half of it and put it on the side of the house, do it. It makes such a difference. Okay, number two, the range. So this is a Wellstud. They're all fairly similar. I still prefer these to Stanleys. I'm not a great fan of Stanleys for various reasons. It's got a back boiler. If you're buying one second hand, beware, the back boilers do tend to rot out from the inside out. There's a company called H&F Enterprises in Tipperary who will remake boilers for most of these ranges. They've got a pattern, they'll laser cut them from stainless steel. They're not that expensive. I think it was about 150 to get a boiler made for this. It's great. It warms the room. It warms the wall behind it. It's got a big wall there. We get hot water from it. There's no pump on the hot water. It's just a thermosiphon. So the pipes from this rise up. They kind of go up to the wall, they go around there, and then they go into our hot water tank, which is a thermal store. Difference between a thermal store and a hot water tank is thermal store is super insulated, and also it's heated directly. So you heat the water in the tank. There's a little heat exchange on the outside. You put cold pressurized water in one side of the heat exchanger, and you get hot pressurized water out the other, basically. It's very good in a single story house because you don't need pumps for your showers and stuff. So whatever your mains pressure or your pump pressure is, that's what you'll get out of the hot water. So definitely get a range. The only downside is that, and we've noticed it since we don't have it lit as much in the summer, is that our breathing definitely is better. You have to pay really close attention to the seals on the doors. Make sure your chimney is clean and your flue is clean and it's drawing well. So, because if it's not, even if you can't see it, if you can smell wood smoke, then you are definitely breathing it. I have a little cheap particle meter that I keep in here just to keep an eye on the levels. And once it's burning hot, it's as clean as anything. But see, during the startup period when you've just lit it, you'd be amazed what it produces. On the other hand, if you've got a gas hob, you'll be amazed what that produces too. So, swings and roundabouts. But on the whole, range is definitely up there. I couldn't do without the range. You'll never be cold. You always have hot water, and you can always cook as long as you've got something to burn on it. And we burn wood in ours, occasionally turf. Coal tends to burn them out. So yeah, get yourself a range. They're cheap. don't buy a new one. There's loads of second-hand ones about, and they're easy to refurbish. Just clean them up, check the insulation, replace the insulation if you like. The fire bricks usually go on them. Rope seals for the doors are easy to come by. Definitely, get a range. Okay, number 3, solar PV. So solar that produces electricity. The reason is, A, you provide your electricity with it, but in summer, chances are you'll have some surplus. And it's in summertime when we don't want to run the range that we could do with some extra way of heating our water, or in our case, running an induction hob so we don't have to light the range as much. So solar is ideal because, I say, in the winter you'll probably have the range lit when there's less sun, and in the summer you'll have a surplus, and it's easy to run just a regular immersion heater. Don't need anything terribly fancy. Most hot water tanks have an immersion heater already, so you can send your surplus to that, heat your water, save yourself the trouble of lighting the fire. So I'm just carefully coming up here onto our roof, onto the green roof, to show you number 4, which I actually forgot about yesterday. Solar thermal. It's actually more efficient than solar PV at turning sun into usable energy. You don't see so much of it around these days because a lot of people just use immersion dumps, but we've had this ever since we moved in. So you can see you've got hot water, cold water comes in, it's heated in the box at the top. There's a copper tube in each of these, copper pipe in each of these things that heats the water passing on the top, and it helps when they're working really well. They're great. You can see I've got an older one here. This one actually has water flowing through the pipes, whereas the one at the top there just has a copper strip that gets hot and it touches the water pipe at the top. And then we've got another one here which has actually failed this winter because it froze. You can see where it's got water and gone rusty, which I can probably open it up and fix it. And then on the other cottage we've got another couple over there, and they would get your water on a good day. They would get your water, very hot, 80 degrees. In winter they help a bit. The downside of them is the plumbing. You've got to get plumbing to them. You've got to have a pump. You've got to have sensors on it. It's just a lot of extra hassle. There's more to go wrong. Stopping them from freezing means you've got to have either antifreeze in them, or you've got to run them in the winter to pump a bit of warm water through to stop them from freezing, which kind of defeats the object. So, but if you can find them cheap, definitely worth doing, or you can make them from radiators painted black, put them in double glazing boxes or something. Here comes the sun there. So yeah, worth a go if you can get them. I'd say if you had to choose between this and PV, go for PV first because it'll do the electricity and it'll heat your water, whereas these are a kind of one-trick pony. Number 5, I'm putting the log gasification boiler here because it's much more versatile than the pellet boiler. You can burn pretty much any wood in it. It doesn't really care. It's happy if it's dry, seasoned hardwood, but pretty much anything will go in it. We throw pallets and all sorts in, and it still runs. It's pretty simple. It's got a controller on the top, which aren't terribly expensive, and it's got a fan. There isn't a lot more to go wrong with it, as long as the water jacket doesn't fail. The hard part is the plumbing, but even that, it's just big. It's not that complicated. And then that leaves us with number 6, the poor old pellet boiler. You can get these cheap because a lot of people are taking them out because grants have come to an end. So there's plenty kicking about, and you can essentially just put one in place of your regular boiler, although it needs some sort of buffer tank so it's not running all the time. But as long as there's pellets in the hopper, I don't think this one has any at the moment. It's nearly empty. You can throw a firelighter in and off it will go. It's really easy to light, which is the difference between this and the log gasification boiler, which takes about a quarter of an hour to get lit properly, because you've got to put a fire in it and wait for it to start up, and really kind of nurse it until it's going well. Whereas the pellet boiler, you can just go. Problem being, pellets are really expensive. But if the price comes back down again, and we can get pellets that are made here, then we'll keep it in use, just because it's handy and it's quick. So I hope that was helpful. That's all our various heat sources. But yeah, simple first, complicated further down the line. The other problem with these pellet boilers actually is you need to keep spares to them. They seem to fail. I've had a couple of scrap ones. I keep the electrics for them just in case bits go wrong, because they also have all these motors and augers and things to lift the pellets in, and they tend to give up too. So my advice would be, don't spend a fortune on them. If you're happy mending this kind of thing, go for it. If you have to rely on someone to come out and fix this, it's going to be a very expensive way of heating anything. So I would go with simple stuff that you can mend, and that you can get parts for. Hope that was useful. See you again.